And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today I'm talking about the card game Fleet. Now, Fleet is about sending out fleets of ships in New England to go out and bring in that cod and that tuna and that king crab. Oh, it's so delicious. Love fish, love crab, love shrimp, okay? But it's a card game. Is it a good game? I mean, because what are you doing in this game? There's auctions. Okay, I'm a little wary of auctions and playing different cards, but the cards do multiple things. Ooh, now that interests me. Let's take a look and see if this game's any good. There's not a whole lot of components in the game. In fact, it's a real pain to fit them in this box. But that's probably because I've upgraded to the blue fish instead of the blue cubes that come with it. They should have just done blue fish to start with. But the fish are harder to fit in the box. But it doesn't matter, okay? You have two types of cards. You have licensed cards, and you're going to have a deck of licensed cards. And there's going to be one out in the middle of the table per player that's playing. And then you'll have a whole handful of cards. And these cards will range from anything from being a captain to a boat to being money. At the beginning of the game, you'll get one of each type. You'll get processing vessel, tuna, king crab boat, lobster boat, shrimp boat, cod boat. If you see here at the bottom, that's how much money they are worth in your hand. So the tuna is worth 3. And also at the end of the game, if you have these boats in front of you, they're worth a certain amount of victory points. The tuna is 3 money, but it's only worth 1 victory point. King crab is only worth 1, while it's worth 3 victory points. Okay, so the first thing you will do at the beginning of each round of the game is you're going to auction off the 4 licenses that are in the middle of the table. Well, at least there's a possibility to auction them off. Each player can only win 1, so once you've won 1, you're out of the rest of the auctions. The start player of each round is going to pick one of these to auction off. So let's say he wants to auction off this lobster license. There's a minimum cost on the license. Let's take a look at this license. There's a minimum cost on it of 5, so he bids whatever he wants to bid. Let's say he says 5, and then you just keep going around till everyone passes and one person wins it. If the person who put it up for auction doesn't win it, then they put another one up. Otherwise, the next player puts one up for auction until each player has either won 1 license or till no one wants to or can bid. When you pay for these licenses, you just simply pay with the cards from your hand, and you don't get change, so you might end up overpaying. The second thing you do on your turn is you'll be able to put boats out on the board. Each of these cards can possibly be a boat. This is a processing vessel, and it cost me 2, so I would pay to put that out. However, I can only put out the processing vessel if I have the processing vessel license. I can only put out a lobster boat if I have the lobster license, and so on. So one of the reasons you want to buy these licenses is because they allow you to put out these different boats. After everyone has put out a boat, you can put a captain on your boat, because only captained boats are going to get fish. So you can put one of these on, and you're basically wasting a card from your hand to do so. And you can put out 1 boat each turn, and you can put out 1 captain each turn. Then, players, any boats that have captains, are going to get 1 fish token placed on those boats. And if you own a processing vessel license, the processing, these fish can be placed there, and where later on they can be used for money. A boat can have at maximum 4 fish on it, but at the end of the game, these fish are worth 1 point each. So it's critical to get your load of 4 fish if possible. For example, this processing vessel with 4 fish on it at the end of the game would be 2 points for the vessel and 4 points for the fish on it. Then at the end of the turn, you will draw 2 cards, keep one of them, discard the other one, refill the licenses from the deck, and continue on. Now that's the basic game, but what makes the game very interesting are these licenses. For example, the lobster one here, if you have 1 lobster license, and then you have 1 to 3 captains, you get to draw a card. If you have 2 to 4 lobster licenses, then you only need 1 or 2 captains to draw a card. A cod says if you have a boat, you get extra. If you launch a boat, you get to draw a card. The tuna license, at the end of your turn, you get to draw 2 cards and keep both those cards. If you have 2 tuna licenses, you get to draw 3 cards and keep 2 of those cards. If you have 3 tuna licenses, you get to draw 3 and keep 3. If you have 4, you draw 4 and keep 3. So you can see the more licenses you have of a certain type, the better you are, and you can get different combos. The shrimp license, which is the one that everyone always wants, gives you a discount when you buy things in the auction and when you launch boats. And that discount is, again, depending on how many of the shrimp licenses you have. You don't start with any of these, but as the game progresses, bigger licenses will show up, like this Fisherman's Pub. That doesn't let you do anything, but you'll notice it's worth 10 points at the end of the game, unlike some of these licenses. Most of the licenses are worth 4 points. And also the King Crab licenses will show up, which let you launch King Crab boats, which are worth 3 victory points. But these also will give you extra things. Like, for example, this gives you, for every 3 crates of fish, that's these tokens, you will get an extra victory point up to a maximum of 10 victory points. Or this one here, for every captain you have on a boat. The game will end when you run out of licenses. When that happens, you add your victory point on the licenses, you add the victory points on all the ships that you have launched, and each ship with a captain that has scored some crates of fish will get you points also. Whoever has the most points is the winner. Well, if you listen to my Best of 2012 Dice Tower show, you'll know that I already picked this for my card game of the year. It's a game that I think really packs a punch behind it. It has some neat concepts behind it. I like the fact that cards are money and that you can put chips, and once you get going, it has this kind of engine going. And you know, the theme of fishing works. It does. As you get the fish in, and it's you need to have captains on your boats, but it also has that neat cog clicking machine that I think is cool as the game progresses. Now, there is an expansion that's out for this game that adds different kinds of contracts and some new, not new ships, but like captains and different things that you can put out. I find most of what the expansion adds to be okay. It's a diversion, but the game I thought clicked really well. Oh, there's a casino. I thought that was great, you know. but that's because I like anything that is lucky. But I think the base game works really well and completely fine. And not to mention the fact that it says here in the box 30 to 45 minutes. I think that 30 minutes is very doable once you know what you're doing. The auctions, I'm always scared of auctions, but I don't think they're as big of a deal here, because if you want to, you can win one of these. You're going to find as you play the game, at first you'll feel like a stranglehold on you, because you're like, I get to draw basically 1 card per turn. So you need to start getting licenses and getting that to where you're drawing 3, 4, 5 cards a turn, because you have, you know, when you play a captain, you get to draw a card. And at the end of your turn, you have that 1 license, which gives you more cards. And you'll find that getting those cards, also the processing vessels, are very useful, because you're processing fish, you're giving up victory points at the end of the game, but you're using them for money now. And the processing vessel also lets you trade in one of those to get a card at the end of your turn. So those can be very powerful. And quick tip, if you play a game for the first time, do not let someone just get a processing vessel for cost. Bid them up for that, because it is worth a lot. And those big contracts at the end worth 10 points and such, those licenses, those are some pretty hefty things. And you might, I played some very close games of this, and I played some swingy games of this, and you know what? As I continue to play this game, I find that each game plays out differently. The only downside, negative thing I might say, is that there is sometimes where you draw cards and you get a whole bunch of 1 coins and you're like, I need some more money. That can happen occasionally. You could argue and say, well, those give you better ships that you can put out, but you might not have the license for those ships, so that could be a bit at that point in the game. But since the game's only 30 minutes or so, I don't mind that sort of thing happening, and it doesn't overwhelm the game with that luck. So the theme fits really well. The artwork and everything is well done. Has that New England flavor to it, but at the same time, it's a card game with some neat ideas. I think it's a bit innovative. It's a breath of fresh air to the hobby. So a very good game, very solid card game, Fleet.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.
Shut the door.
Yeah?